Oh my goodness, and you thought that Elliotte Friedman was just going out there and tickling our fancies, trying to get a conversation going? Nope. Elliotte Friedman, earlier this morning, sparked a blaze in Vancouver Canuck Nation with a comment that he made on the 32 Thoughts podcast that was later expanded upon on Donnie and Dolly a few hours later. Now, speaking about the Vancouver Canucks, they're playing off against the Avalanche later tonight. They're playing off against two of the best players in the world tonight. Nathan McDaddy McKinnon, Cale freaking Makar. And you know what? I'm actually going to be at the game today. I'm not going to dox myself and reveal where I'm going to be in the building, but if you do happen to see a short Filipino dude who happens to sound like this, then hey, feel free to say hi. I'm very friendly, I think. But anyways, it's going to be my first Canucks game in, I think, like 8 years? Yeah, I don't go to the games often. I like to stay home and watch them with video replays and commentary. Mostly because I'm able to record videos about them immediately after they end, but when Cale Makar's in town, oh boy, you gotta take some time out of your day to see him. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Let's go out there and discuss what Elliotte Friedman said on 32 Thoughts earlier this morning in regards to the Vancouver Canucks and the Buffalo Sabres. Buck Foston tweeted this out. Elliotte Friedman starts his podcast by saying this is purely in his own head, but he goes on to suggest a Dylan Cozens and Bowen Byram trade for Elias Pettersson. Friedman says you listen to Jim Rutherford and you know the Sabres are looking and you start to think of some ideas. Oh boy. You know, last time Friedman had one of these "this is only in my own head" segments, it was the Nikita Zadorov back to Vancouver thing from the Boston Bruins, and that was already seen as a crazy idea. This idea is even bigger, it's even bolder, it's even more out of this world. They came to attack us from Mars, and it's a biggie. Cozens and Byram for Pettersson? You then had another tweet from Rick Dollywall speaking about Friedman expanding upon these comments. This was from Donnie and Dolly earlier this morning as well. Friedman on spitballing Pettersson, Cozens, and Byram. I was just spitballing, but the two teams have talked. I can see Vancouver interest in those players, and I can see Buffalo interest in Pettersson. Now, the funny part is it's Elliotte Friedman, right? If it was any other random person, okay, sure, if it was any other random person, we probably would have still made a video about it, but still, Friedman being the guy going out there and discussing this makes it all the more interesting. And my immediate, instinctual, non-filtered reaction upon seeing this idea was no. Firstly, no. Like, I like Dylan Cozens and I like Bowen Byram. These two guys are fantastic players. They're playing on a crappy Buffalo Sabres team that has lost 10 games in a row. They've officially lost 3 in regulation, but they are 0-7-3 in their last 10, so they've lost 10 in a row. Nice. They've been so bad lately, and a lot of these guys, they've needed that eye from the dentist system. They need to inspire hope. Not only are they not inspiring hope amongst the fans, but they are not inspiring hope amongst themselves. The Buffalo Sabres are in a very vulnerable spot, and sure, Dylan Cozens, whom we have talked about before, we made the video going over what Friedman said about him last week, but Dylan Cozens is in a pretty tough spot. He's a young guy, he got paid a lot of money, 23 years old, he is a prototypical two-way, hard-nosed, big center, 7.1 mil, he's making a lot of money, he's got a lot of tools, he's really young, and he's on pace for 35 points this season. Dylan Cozens got off to a really slow start, and it's not like that's getting any better. He's got 1 point in his last 5 games. Cozens has a really high ceiling. Like, I do think he's got, let's say, 85-point potential in this league, and I say that because he already has a 68-point campaign. He had that 2 years ago at 21. He's good. It's just, is this the time to go out there and make a buy low kind of trade for a guy like Dylan Cozens? In my opinion, no. Not for Elias Pettersson. If Petey is your return, you can expect the moon and the stars, and it's not unreasonable. Dylan Cozens is not giving what Vancouver needs right now. Jim Rutherford said the Vancouver Canucks are like 2 pieces away from being a contender. It's already been established that Vancouver is looking to add. If you trade away a guy like Petey for Cozens, okay, you're kind of making your team worse on paper right now. And I get it, you were adding Bowen Byram in the trade mix as well. That's the other name that Friedman introduces here. But I have no idea if the Buffalo Sabres would be interested in trading Byram away. Getting my left-handed defenseman mixed up over here. Byram has been so good for the Buffalo Sabres, despite the fact that they've been terrible. He's on a 3-game point streak right now. He's logging 25-plus minutes a night. He's on the first pairing now that Rasmus Dahlin has been injured. Bowen Byram is everything that the Buffalo Sabres needed out of any of these top defensemen. And he also does have a ceiling that sees him getting maybe 50 points this year, which would be a career high. He's been playing in Cale Makar, Samuel Girard, and Devon Toews' shadow in Colorado all those years. He has never eclipsed the 24-point marker. So, for Bowen Byram, he is on the up and up, yes. He is definitely in a better position than he has been in any other spot in his career, yes. If he was on Vancouver, maybe he plays the right side alongside a Quinn Hughes. A Hughes-Byram pairing would be fantastic, yes. But I just don't see it for Elias Pettersson. Elias Pettersson? Like, I get that there is maybe some sort of an incentive for the Vancouver Canucks to trade any one of their top forwards, but in my opinion, I feel like a lot of the conversations we had yesterday still reign true right now, where it's like, hey, this team, if there is some sort of a locker room rift between Miller and Petey, do you think they would trade away Elias Pettersson over JT Miller? Do you think they'd keep Millsy over Petey? Maybe JT fits more in the style of game that Rick Tocchet wants to play. Maybe it's a lot easier to get that type of game out of him versus getting that out of Elias Pettersson. Maybe all signs point to JT Miller being a better fit for this team. But are Allvin and Rutherford going to give up on Petey this soon? I mean, I get it. They chose JT over Bo Horvat all those years ago, but will they do the same over Pettersson? And to bounce back to the idea itself, I honestly don't know if it's Miller for Byram and Cozens that it actually gets done. Like, I understand that Miller is a 100-point player and everything, but his value is going down a little bit as the season has gone on because of all this controversy. The fact that he took a leave of absence for a month, the fact that there's this story about him and Elias Pettersson. Obviously, we don't know the finer details about it, but because that's there, other teams are going to see that as a little bit of a red flag. Hey, is this guy some sort of a, I don't want to use the term locker room cancer, but is he a guy that we have to pay attention to in the locker room? Is this the kind of guy that we need right now if we are Buffalo? We stink. We've lost 10 games in a row. Is JT Miller the guy to go out there and fix our problems? Or is Elias Pettersson that guy? It's a lot easier to believe in Petey. He's so much younger and he's so much more, admittedly, expensive. He also has a lot more of a ceiling, I would say. Sure, Miller and Petey are both at their absolute peaks, 100-point caliber centers, but Elias Pettersson, I think, has the X factor. He's a little bit more of a fancy, deaky, creative style that suits the modern NHL compared to what JT brings, even though Miller is a lot more of a hard-nosed, no-nonsense, just make the right play, make the right pass, make the right read, make the right snipe kind of guy. Petey can get fancy with it, and I think there's a lot more, maybe, marketability in a guy like Elias Pettersson compared to JT nowadays. But anyways, going back to the main idea that Friedman brings up, do I think it's equal from a trade value perspective, Cozens and Byram for Pettersson? I'd say maybe it's equal, but when you think about what these guys are going through right now, I'm not too sure if it's something that really moves the needle, nor is it really something that accomplishes what both teams would want to accomplish. Would the Buffalo Sabres trade away Bowen Byram? Honestly, I'd say that they probably have a higher likelihood of trading away an Owen Power instead. He's been a little bit disappointing compared to Byram. Byram's sort of taken over that number 1 spot here. Dylan Cozens has been very disappointing, but does that bode well for a team going out there and trying to make a trade for him? I'm not too sure. We had seen teams calling about him. That's why we made the video earlier this week, or last week, about Dylan Cozens, but is Vancouver one of them? Does Cozens help that team out right now? That's the question, isn't it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below about this trade and everything else in between. I hope you enjoyed this British Astros 99, and bye.